Welcome everybody. This is Prep Boyz podcast. I am your host, Mr. BS himself. That is Bright Shadow. Of course, there's no BS on Prep Boyz pod. Of course, we got OJ, the Juice Man.
What's going on?
Jetlag Jay, aka Jason, is not with us. He's on an onboarding call currently, but we're trying to get him on the pod. Joining us from Connecticut, of course, we are located here in Sunrise, Florida. Sunny Sunrise, Florida. Here to talk all things resale, Amazon, prep centers. Try to add some value to this resale community. How you doing, man?
Yeah, all good. It's Friday. Ready to roll. Looking forward to the weekend. It's been a fruitful week. You know, for sure.
Nice.
Sales are full swing. Sales are up. We got a busy warehouse, and everything looks good.
Yep. Prepping in the backgrounds as we speak. Like OJ said, it's Q4, so I hope everybody is doing big things. Sales are up. Exciting times.
Yeah, for sure. A lot different than the last couple of Q4s. I know that this year has been a little bit different, specifically for the types of items that we're looking to buy. Based on the last couple of years where we had some super hype items, PlayStation 5s particularly. Then the year before that we had the heaters and things like that. So this year's been a little bit different to try to find a niche, but still plenty of opportunity out there.
For sure. This wasn't on our list, but I want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, the sort of highlighted items that come up. I know the Barbie movie was huge.
Yeah.
And you had a real big play to get in. How many units was it for the Barbies?
So I was $32,000 in on Barbie.
Jeez.
And as you know, when you go that deep, it could either go one way or the other. For me as well as several others out there, I know you're probably sitting there kicking yourself as well. But Amazon went ahead and restricted the listing for a lot of us. With that being said, if you've already sent in 700 or 800 units, they're essentially stranded. So now you have to go through the work of recalling that inventory and figuring out what to do with them. Obviously, returns is kind of frowned upon. Not only on Amazon, but as resellers, you try to kind of limit your returns. But in this case, some of us are left with no choice because we can't sit on 5, 10, 15, 20K worth of merchandise that we can't sell.
That's great.
But there are still some other good Barbie SKUs. It was just the pink dress one that was a little rough for the community, for sure.
And now, talk about that return process, because for those who are trying to, scale up and go bigger with quantities and wholesale and that kind of thing, the return process was definitely a bit different than I think what you'd be used to if you were just returning 5 units or even 100 units.
Yeah, no question. And that's one thing, again, just to reiterate, like, returning is frowned upon and we don't recommend it. But in extenuating circumstances, things happen. But yeah, in this case, you're 100% correct. This return process involved, freight pickups, bill of ladings, and so on and so forth, just due to the sheer size of the return. And unfortunately, when it is a freight return, Amazon has up until 30 days after you sent the item to go ahead and refund you. So it's not where when you do a simple return as a regular customer. As soon as they scan it, you'll see that refund back into your account in a day or two. This is, it takes them up to 30 days. So, many of us have credit cards to pay off, so it could throw a wrench in your plans. But that's why it's important always to have some backup options to fall back on.
So,
yeah, it hasn't been a fun process. When you do everything right as a seller, and then Amazon kind of flips the switch on you, it hurts. But it's all about adapting. So that's what we do.
Nice. Now, of course, we're in a prep center here. We do process returns, although not every seller has that desire to have returns sent to the prep center. Can you talk about a little bit how that would work if a customer was using our Pep Center, for instance?
Yeah, no, sure. So Amazon, it's kind of funny because sometimes they'll mark perfectly sellable items as unfulfillable when it comes to Amazon, meaning that there was something that deemed it to them that the item could not be sold as new again, so they'll return it back to us. Oftentimes, probably 70% of the time, these items could still be used and sold as new. So it's our job, part of our job in the returns process, to take those items or inventory return products in, inspect them to see if they could be sold as new. If they can, simply reach out to the seller and let them know, he or she know that these items are still available. We're able to send them back to you, or send them back to Amazon on your behalf. Or if the item, for instance, a pair of shoes, for example. As you know, clothing is one of the most highly returned items there is, or categories there are. So for example, someone sends a pair of shoes back with no box. That means you cannot send it back to Amazon as new, but that doesn't mean you can't sell it elsewhere. So one of the things that we do here at Prep Boyz here in Sunrise, we take pictures of those returns and then we send them back to the sellers. That way they can go ahead and post it on Mercari, OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace, eBay, to just kind of alleviate a little bit of pressure on them, and then once it does sell, we'll fulfill it on their behalf. Yeah. So it's just an extra service to just take a little bit off of the seller's shoulders.
And it's funny you mentioned shoes. We always say each of us have our own individual stores, and Jetlag Jason, who's our COO, recently had some returns for some shoes. They came back clearly worn. Yeah. So it does happen for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. I think the return the return percentage for that category is, it's one of the highest there is, probably 16 to 20% or something like that. Which many people do shy away from the category specifically for those reasons. Yep. But it is just a very robust category. And you could really make a lot of money. And most of the customers out there, they're not bad actors. They don't have bad intentions. Sometimes you try something and it doesn't fit, so you return it, which is understandable. And again, during Q4, we have that extended return period, so it even hurts a little bit more, because a customer has, 90 days to return an item. So, you always have to kind of account for that, which still to my mind, to this day, it throws me for a loop that they have 90 days.
90 days, that's 3 months to wear a pair of Nikes.
Right.
Yeah.
Back. And then you kind of figure out, hey man, I ran 100 miles in these. I don't think these are for me. Let me send them back to Jesse over here and see what he can do with them. So yeah, that's just part of the business. Again, most of your customers aren't going to be that way. But yes, clothing and shoes is a great category, but you just got to have the stomach for the returns that come with it.
So we clearly give away some free game here in a podcast or any of our social media accounts. So I know social media is a big space for resale, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, whatever platform you're using. You can get some good information. You can also get some bad information.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful. So for sellers out there that are either new or maybe even a little bit more experienced, do you have any suggestions in terms of mentorship opportunities so that they're able to get like some one-on-one information rather than just having to sort of sift through everything that's out there online?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I guess it kind of has to do with your niche or what you're doing when it comes to selling on Amazon or selling in general. If you're more of, let's say, an RA seller, then there's a certain amount of people or folks that you should follow. If you're dealing with wholesale, some of the top leaders in that industry when it comes to like Twitter, you're gonna look at a guy like Corey Gannum and all. So you look online, you follow some of these accounts with some decent followers. You kind of look at the groups that they represent or are a part of, and a lot of these groups have free trials. So go ahead and utilize that free trial, that 5 to 7 day free trial, test it out, You want to look for professionalism in the group. You want to look at success to see how members are doing. And that way you can kind of connect with some of the more senior members in there or even staff to kind of, determine who's going to be a mentor or who's going to kind of be your sponsor. So there's really no one suggestion I would say, but I would suggest, hopping into some different groups, trying them out, getting a feel for what the people are like, getting a feel for what the staff is like, and then kind of, determining who you want to work with from there.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And look, a lot of us have the main gig, main jobs,
Yep.
and then this is more of a side hustle, at least to start. And I work in the aerospace industry from a main gig, and we're always pushing mentorship opportunities in that space, and it works the same way, right? You gotta grow accustomed to those that are succeeding, build relationships, and then you can narrow it down to someone who, number one, you think can help you, but who also has the time and capacity to be able to offer that mentorship and guidance to you. So, folks are busy, and sometimes you might have a desire to work with someone, but they might not have the time and capacity for it. So
yeah, no, that's a good point. And you also want to make sure that when you're finding this mentor, that he or she is able to be 100% transparent with you and let you know, when you're doing well, or let you know when you messed up.
Yep.
Because the last thing you want is someone who is sort of a yes man. You really want to make sure that they have your best interest in mind, and that you're going to be able to take that constructive criticism and then grow from it. So I know a lot of people look for mentors and they want to just, they want to hear praise. Hey, good job, keep it up, and attaboy. But you got to make sure that you're speaking with someone who has your best interest in mind, is going to help you grow, is able to kind of learn from the mistakes that they've made and impart those on you, so you don't make those mistakes. So it's very important when it comes to mentorship, sponsorship, or even being a mentor yourself, that you kind of let your counterpart know when he or she is not right.
Yep.
Because that goes a long way.
Now, should someone pay for a mentorship or no?
So that's another great question. You're full of great questions today, so I appreciate it.
That's my job. I'm trying.
So yeah, there's so paid mentorships, and you'll see a ton of them. You'll click on half of the top guy in the space's link tree, and you'll see a $500 mentorship for a few hours, or a 30-minute call, $100, things of that nature. I feel like yes, those may be valuable, but yes, you could find that information on YouTube. You could find a lot of that information in Discord, and a lot of that information that I just mentioned is out there for free. So while I do agree that there are some mentorships out there that may be worth it, before you go ahead and spend $500, $1,000, $200, $2,000 on these guides or mentorships, I would definitely try to go the free route first, because even during that route, you'll be able to make some great connections that will provide you with great value.
Yeah, completely agree. So to me, the pay-to-play sort of mentality is really like, it's a shortcut.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can get some of that information faster, but you're more likely to get more value out of it if you do it a little bit more organically.
Yeah.
So perhaps you don't have the time, you're trying to jumpstart, then maybe paying for some of these programs is that start you're looking for. But if you want that meaningful relationship, those are typically a bit more organic, and maybe you do get to a space where the mentor you're desiring is so wrapped up in other avenues, they're like, look, I gotta charge you because it's gonna take away from my income somewhere else.
Right.
And to me, that's a different sort of situation than just saying, hey, I'm looking for a mentor. How much is it? We're just going to buy a course or whatever it is.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And just like you said, building an actual relationship, it starts with a foundation. The link tree, you simply pay $200, you schedule a call. This person knows nothing about you. That 30 minutes for that $200 call is probably going to kind of just be an about me or get to know you. Whereas, once you're kind of building a relationship and you kind of know where this person is in their business and life, they know where you are in your business and life, it really helps build that connection rather than just a financial transaction. So again, I would highly recommend looking out for some free tools, some free videos, some free communities where you can just really connect with like-minded people before paying people. I know that we're busy, but you know, we could all make time for an hour to connect with people.
Now, I know you talked a bit about some of the groups that are emerging. I know there's been some groups that have dissolved in recent history, so it seems like the space is really changing. You mentioned some of the ones that we're already in, but can you talk a bit about the value of some of those groups, and then I guess give some of the free options as well as some of the paid options?
Yeah, so transparently, I'm not in a slew of groups in the space. I kind of like to be focused on the network that I do have now. So a couple of groups that I, personally, full transparency, staff in the buy box. That group I've been in since we started the group in March of 2021. So a little bit over 2 years now. We do have a free version of the group as well called the Buy Box Lite. But obviously I'm a little bit biased because I work with Saul, AJ, and the team there. But I got to tell you, I mean, the amount of people that group has helped from start or from novice to where they are now it's unbelievable. There are some guys in there, I mean, they started a year ago, scaled from 0 to 50, 60,000 a month. And that's due to some of the coaching that we spoke to earlier, which is included in the membership. There are no additional fees for that. And also, the technology, which again, we spoke to before, kind of having that technology piece, the customer acquisition piece, and that's a lot what the Buy Box offers. Not to mention that, but a really talented group of staff in a community that wants to help. So I am in the Buy Box, great group, 100% recommend joining that group. But there's also, Resale Calendar if you're looking for kind of those quick flips or those hard to find items that you could potentially sell on eBay. Those are more eBay sales typically. There are some Amazon options in there as well. But another big guy in the space is Casey, aka Kickflips. And I know he's out there now kind of looking at groups and partnerships and mergers and figuring out how he could, kind of help the most people out there too. So I know he's pretty large in the space. And then of course Chris Grant, I know he has a group as well. Those are some of the larger guys that I know of kind of in the space making moves. And then of course Chaz with his prep network and his business is always looking to grow. So those are some of the guys off the top of my head. But there's a slew of groups out there.
Yep.
No question.
And so one of the things too, when you get into these groups, again, these are businesses that folks are running, and so there could be some charges that are associated. But one of the benefits is that you also get discounts for folks that they're partnering up with. Clearly, like I said, we're running a prep center here, but we offer discounts to those members of the Buy Box in terms of sign-on fees and that sort of thing. So there are certainly benefits all the way around.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, referral revenue, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Fat Kid Deals. I'm sure you have if you're in the resale community. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, I think Fat Kid Deals, he's making maybe a couple $1,000s a month. Now they have turned into this multi-million-dollar business with millions or hundreds of thousands of followers. And this is all referral-based revenue. So obviously you may not be at that scale yet, but just joining groups, speaking to the value of that group, and then dropping a link off to a friend, that could net you $30, $40 a month in passive income while helping a friend out. So our prep center does that, the Buy Box does that, I'm sure multiple other groups do that. But yeah, it's a great way to get additional income while helping not only the group, but your buddy as well.
So we talked groups. Let's expand a little bit. Are you aware, or have you attended recently or in your past any sort of like conferences, events in the resale community that you think really helped sort of kickstart you a bit?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say recently, just because this year's been a little bit tight with some of the real estate projects I've been doing, plus the prep center, and
of course we had COVID go back a year, which
right.
kind of shut everything down for a bit.
Yeah, so it's been a little bit tight. Just kind of just an excuse on my part. But essentially, I mean, there's tons of shows that have happened this year. I just haven't been able to go to them. I know there's been Magic, there's been Pet Expo, just recently in Vegas. This week was actually the SEMA show, which I know had a ton of businesses out there. And one of my good buddies, Dre, also in the Buy Box staff member, I know he was out there and kind of documented his experience, which looked like a great one. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I did attend a meetup earlier this year with Chris Grant and Chaz, where I was able to network with a ton of Amazon sellers, some experienced ones, even met a few folks who ran some prep centers. So I would just look at, and I know that Chaz also has some meetups coming up, one in Orlando and then a few more next year. So I would look at some of those guys. A lot of these folks in the space do meetups. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage you, go out, get a face to the name, interact. Don't always add, try to see how you can help
right.
some of these larger sellers. Don't be kind of digging in their pockets or only going, for a unilateral mission, which is to help yourself. Kind of develop those relationships, see how you can potentially partner with people. Try to find the gaps in what their business looks like, and maybe you can work on those gaps. And that's the key way in partnership and in mentorship, like we spoke about before, is really finding kind of what someone's opportunities are that you can help them with, and see how they can help you. So yeah, meetups are fantastic. I would suggest them for sure.
Yeah. And the other thing I think is trade shows.
Yeah. Yep.
It depends.
Those are typically the top 3 categories when it comes to selling on Amazon. There's also private label, which personally I took a dive at it a couple of years back, and it is challenging.
I think a lot of people have.
Yeah.
It's a tough space to get into.
It's a tough space, but once you kind of have a plan, you understand the full process, and you're able to take the bull by the horns rather than paying someone, which was my mistake.
Yeah.
It could be a really fruitful venture. I know one guy, he started off making like dog harnesses and leashes. Started off as a couple $100 a month. Now it's a couple $100,000 in revenue that this guy's making on dog harnesses.
Yeah, that's literally what I do.
Exactly.
Private
so there's tons of fruitful ways for private label, but the barrier to entry to that, as mentioned, is higher than any of the other 3 models that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So we can start with OA, which is online arbitrage. That's essentially, you've got a customer, you're going to Walmart, Kohl's, any of the big box stores, or any other store for that matter, and pretty much sourcing online. You can do that either by using software, which there's multiple software tools out there. You've got SellerAmp, you've got Tactical Arbitrage, you've got Keepa. But the best way to do it, and something I learned while working with Dre and others in the buy box, was to have this done manually. Manually, you say, man, I'm going to be here all day sourcing a website. The answer is yes. You will be there all day. But the fact of the matter is, you will find more items doing something manually than your software would. Because that software could miss bundles, it could miss variation opportunities, but you really sorting through everything line by line gives you a higher likelihood to find something with less competition. So long story short is, online arbitrage, you're buying that item online, and then essentially you're matching it up with the Amazon listing, and you're either sending it to yourself or sending it to your prep center to pack for you. That is probably the most common model. It is the easiest model personally, in my opinion, just because you can do all that from the comfort of your own chair, without really having to break a sweat.
And tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like that's a real sort of baseline entry point to resale. If you're just coming into the space and you're looking to get going, unless you just got a huge bankroll and you want to jump right into wholesale and you have the means to hire employees to help you out with it, that's a good baseline to get you going, learn the process, learn the business of it.
Yeah, so I would say I kind of agree and disagree on that. OA, yes, it's a good kind of way to lead into, but I would always suggest when you're getting started on Amazon to head to a store. I think when we spoke when you were first starting your store, I said, dude, you live right next to the Nike outlet. That is like, you're sitting next to a pot of gold.
Yep.
Go in that store, start scanning the hoodies, start scanning the shoes that you see everyone buying. Roshi runs, Air Force Ones, things of that nature. And that's retail arbitrage, what we're kind of leading into now. Essentially where your boots on the ground, you're walking into a store and you're scanning items. You know, what I like to do is, or when I first started, or right now unfortunately I just don't have the time, but I would look at, you know, some aisles like, let's say the sauces and condiments aisle. I would look at, wow, everyone's buying this Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. Let me go ahead and scan this. Yeah, sweet Baby Ray's. Let me go ahead and scan this and see, you know, if this is a potential seller on Amazon. Lo and behold, it's selling 1,000 times per month.
Yep.
Retail arbitrage, yes, it's a bit more tedious. It's a bit more time consuming because you have to have, you know, boots on the ground, as I mentioned. But it could be potentially fruitful because at your store where you're at, not every seller would have that same opportunity to find those same items. So it could really set you apart. I know Saul in the buy box, he's built a great business off of doing a lot of retail arbitrage. And again, he has a full-time job, but he makes it a priority to go on his route and really source retail stores. So that's the second one. And then of course, wholesale, which you mentioned. Again, that may be a little bit higher of a barrier to entry than online arbitrage, mainly due to minimum order quantities or MOQs. You know, some suppliers, distributors, or brands, they don't want to deal with someone who's going to buy something or place an order for $1,000 when they work with Target, who's placing POs for $1 million.
Yep.
So essentially, kind of finding that supplier who will work with you with a $500 minimum, $1,000 minimum. It will work out, but essentially the wholesale model is you're buying at a lower price than MSRP than retail price. That allows you to sell it for potentially more profit on Amazon. Keep in mind though, there's many units or many products in the wholesale space that are a little bit lower margin, but much higher volume.
Yep.
So essentially you just have to determine if that's a good fit for your business model, or if you prefer the much higher volume flips at a lower frequency.
Yep. Like you said, I think we're both entering the wholesale space, doing RA also. But yeah, the minimum order quantities, that's something that I was a bit shocked by initially. It was like, man, $50,000-$60,000 order minimum.
Yeah.
They're definitely can be steep depending on you know what you're trying to purchase. But to tie it into our earlier discussion with, you know, who you know and who you're associated with, can you talk about some of the opportunities in terms of splitting some of those costs?
Yeah, and this is something that I've done and I've seen done. There are definitely pros and cons. The main pro being is that all the capital doesn't have to come from you.
Yep.
You could split that with a colleague, a friend, and really go, you know, half, or post that into one of the groups that, you know, we were speaking to earlier.
Absolutely.
And see if there's anyone interested in a potentially, you know, a group buy or group funding opportunity. With that being said, you know, we kind of spoke to Amazon restricting a listing earlier and how finicky Amazon is at times. You know, the person with the PO, let's say you ordered it, you know, the funds came from your account, it has your store name on there. Next thing you know, I get hit with an inauthenticity complaint on my account, and I have no receipts, no paperwork to show for it. And then next thing you know, I'm reaching out to you and saying, hey, can you send me that receipt? And then I'm caught with egg on my face. So, you know, it's really important to develop a relationship, if you can, with these distributors, brands, or suppliers, and see if potentially there's any wiggle room or flexibility where they can create a PO on your behalf for your store or something like that. But yes, I would really look into that before kind of diving in on something like that. But I have seen it work and I have seen it not work.
Okay. I just want to, of course, tie it into the prep center realm because that's what we're here to do. So for each of those models, OA, RA, and wholesale, can you just run through why you might want to use a prep center for those models? Yeah,
I mean, the main thing is no matter which model it is, even private label, it comes down to time. Source or outsourcing your prep, outsourcing even your sourcing, really just saves you a lot of time, which will allow you more time to grow your business, more time to, let's say, hire RA employees, which is fantastic for, you know, this time of year and last month. That way you have boots on the ground doing your job for you while you're basically, you know, you're figuring out how to run and grow your business.
Yep.
So whether it comes to wholesale, OA, RA, here at Prep Boyz LLC, for example, we'll take all of those. I know there's several prep centers out there who aren't really into RA because it's much more, you know, it's much more work. You've got to kind of take the product in, you got to remove the stickers, you got to deal with, you know, shoppers and then people dropping things off at your front door all day long. But you know, we kind of have a system in place here.
Yep.
So we're happy to work with RA, OA, wholesale, any other sellers in general here.
And with that system, you know, we do take deliveries
Yep.
24/7,
Yep.
which I think really sets us apart in terms of prep centers. It's always something that our customers are impressed by during the onboarding process.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it's a good place for us to stop. This was good conversation.
Yeah.
We'll get into a lot more of the weeds in each one of those things, but I'm trying to set some groundwork here in Prep Boyz podcast. As always, fantastic to have you here, man.
Sure.
We'll eventually get jet lag on the pod
Gotta
too.
track that guy down,
And
man.
he's snoozing. That's why we call him jet lag.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, we appreciate you guys. Feel free to, you know, follow us, shoot us any questions that you might have. Head over to theprepboyz.com with the Prep Boyz with a Z, by the way. We've got our pricing there. We've got some calculators there to help you kind of figure out, you know, what your pricing would look like. We try to be as transparent as possible. We're Amazon sellers, but we're also looking to help you guys grow. So, yeah, feel free to give us a look. Head over to the Buy Box, another great group, as I mentioned previously. And yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in.
Thanks, people. Later.
See you. How's your phone dead when they just started?
My God, I don't know what's going on, man. How long did we do, Bobo?
30 minutes, right?
It felt like. How about that?
Man, Dre tuned in. Did anyone else tune in?
We only have like 20 followers on Instagram, but
Better than zero.
I mean, if we keep doing this with the lives, that'll definitely help.
Yeah.